Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to you from Tokyo, where it's 9:30 in the morning. I'm Richard Dasher, and I direct the US-Asia Technology Management Center at Stanford. I'm really happy to welcome you to this special session of a class that I've been teaching every year since 1994 on Japanese business culture and systems. This looks at how elements of Japanese socioculture play out in the business world there, especially, not only norms and values, but practices and kind of standard rituals, and also laws and regulations. So, in that context, of course, it's important to have a session on women in Japanese business. This has been in the news for a long time about Japan, and what we want to do is not just have a session about statistics or, these are the structural issues, but really get word from the front lines to have, the points of view of women who are actively involved in Japanese business. In that regard, 2.5 years ago, an organization called the Japanese Women's Initiative in the Bay Area started, really from people who were associated with my center at the time, including one of our panelists today, Dr. Makiko Kawabe. And we're really happy that we can present today's program in cooperation with JUIBA. So on the panel, we have Makiko, who, besides being a senior researcher at Sompo Digital Lab, is also a specially appointed professor of the Advanced Graduate Program for Future Medicine and Health at Tohoku University. And she is a very accomplished performing artist on the traditional Japanese instrument, the koto. Um, and along with Makiko, who was really kind to get two of the other volunteers from JUIBA to be involved, we have Dr. Yuri Ishikawa of Japan's AIST National Research Institute, and Ms. Saki Oshima, who is a partner of NEXTBLUE. And I'm going to leave today's session in the very capable hands of our senior program manager, Ms. Kimberley Williams, who worked for the Stanford Graduate School of Business for over 10 years. And then she went out into the private sector and worked first for Jazz Pharmaceuticals, then for Cisco Systems. And we were able to pull her back in 2019 to work with us at the US Asia Technology Management Center. So I'm looking forward to hear what everyone has to say. Please make it an interactive session. Feel free to ask questions or make comments, and look forward to hearing how things work out. Kimberly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dasher. I appreciate that. So I would like to reiterate a welcome. Thank you to everyone who's joining us in the room and everyone who's joining us on Zoom for just some kind of easy logistics. So we're going to hear from each of our panelists. I'll start off our discussion with a couple of questions, but we will make sure that we save plenty of time for questions from our audience as well. So, and if you're joining us on Zoom, then please feel free to type your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that those are answered as well. So as Dr. Dasher very articulated really well, we are obviously hoping that this is an interactive session and that we really want to hear the stories of our panelists who are really going to be talking about their lived experiences. But I do like to level set the session and kind of start off with, how is Japan performing? So I use the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Report. So for 2025, it includes data from 148 economies. And it benchmarks the global gender gap across countries, and it's been doing that since 2006. So this year, or this past year, I suppose, in 2025, Japan ranked on the 4 different indexes that they use. For women, for economic participation and opportunity, it ranked 112th out of 148. For educational attainment, it ranked 66th. For health and survival, it ranked 50th, which was above the United States. And for political empowerment, it ranked 125th. And that is the only index that it fell on. It improved in every other aspect. So, which is kind of interesting, given the historical election of Japan's first female prime minister in October of this past year. So there's a lot of really interesting things going on. And the data is also basically pointing to the fact that there are more women working in the labor force in Japan than ever before. So we have a lot of content that we can cover. So with that, because Dr. Dasher did such a lovely job of kind of doing some basic introductions, and I don't want to take time away from our panelists, I'm going to ask Ms. Kawabe if you would like to go ahead and start us off. Right, and give us a little bit of an overview of JWEBA in general as well.
So thank you so much. My name is Makiko. I'm very honored to be here today. Thank you. I'm currently working at Sompo Digital Lab in Silicon Valley, as Professor Dasha mentioned. So for those of you who are not familiar with Sompo, Sompo is one of the largest insurance company in Japan. For those for you who are here in the US, I'd like to say that we are kind of Allstate and State Farm in Japan. But in addition to what Allstate and State Farm does, in addition to being just a property and casualty insurance, we have some business unit in Japan. One of them is the healthcare area, senior care area. We have business unit called Sompo Care, which owns and operates the largest chain of nursing care facilities in Japan. And as you know, Japan is aging society, and some people say that it's super aging. So this is an area of interest of us, anything to do with healthy aging, as well as the insurance technologies in that space. And so Sompo Digital Lab is really bring innovation in digital data AI from Silicon Valley to Japan, as well as to create new business, which we are interested in. And just briefly myself, actually I started my career as a policy consultant. I mean, after earning my master's in public health, I joined one of the leading think tank called Mitsubishi Research Institute. So over 15 years, I've engaged lots of is my major client being the Ministry of Health in Japan. And I joined the MRI in 2006, 6 years after Japan introduced the public long-term care insurance system with the background of our super aging society. And soon after we introduced that public system, the number of service users increased so rapidly, and the financial resources cannot keep in pace. So most of my career has been dedicated to deliver the policy making support, how to deliver good care for the elderly within the limited financial resources available. So, I'm standing in the intersection of policy making and business development, but always my interest is to address social challenges through the scientific and evidence-based approach. And I came to Silicon Valley 3 years ago, and at that time I found myself as a Japanese woman arriving at the thought I never expected in Japan. If something doesn't exist for us, maybe we can create it. This is the very beginning of our nonprofit JWEBA, Japanese Women's Initiative in the Bay Area. And JWEBA is the work that is I do with clear intention, separate from my professional work I mentioned. But today, firstly, I'd like to share our journey, not as a successful story, but the real situation, real example of how the gender gap in Japan still exists at the Japanese large organizations. And we began our initiatives in 2022 with just 4 founding members. And we started it because I saw many Japanese women here in Silicon Valley struggling And it started as a very small community driven by a strong belief that women needed a place to connect and support each other. And thankfully, US-ATMC has been the strong supporter since the very beginning. And then in August 2023, we held the first Juiba Summer Summit. And it was a hybrid event connecting Japan and the US with over 300 participants. And it was the major turning point for us because it expanded our reach significantly. And in August 2024, we became officially incorporated as a nonprofit organization here in the US. And this increased our credibility and resulted in the deeper collaboration with the Japanese companies as a sponsor, and also the deep collaboration with the university in Japan to do the research together. And last year, we launched our third leadership team, moving to the new phase with new members. So in summary, what I want to say is that in just a few years, Juiba has grown from a small group of 4 members to the community that has welcomed over 1,000 members, participants. And our mission has 2 main pillars. The first is to support and inspire each other in both career and life. And second is to promote equity and inclusion and to empower women to drive innovation. Japanese women here in the Bay Area often experience major life transitions like overseas assignment, changing roles, and childbirth and childcare. And Juiba provides a space where women can share their experience and support each other through these transitions. And we also believe that the women from diverse background is the key driver of innovation. And we regularly host meetups at Stanford, and also some are held online and some are conducted in English. So if today is the first day for you to know the word Juiba, JWIBA, please check the SNS using JWIBA. You can reach our information. So this is me, and that is Juiba. So I'm very honored to and happy to join our conversation today. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It is pretty amazing how fast that organization has grown. And we are very pleased to be able to support all of the women that you are building a community with. So our next panelist is Dr. Yuri Nishikawa, and she has a couple of slides to kind of share her story. So
thank you. Okay, thank you, Kimberley, for introducing.
Of course.
And hi, everyone. My name is Yuri Nishikawa from AIST. AIST is, by the way, in Japanese, it's called Sansoken. It is a Japanese National Research Institute under METI, which stands for a Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. It is such a pleasure and honor to be here today. So first of all, I would like to share some of my background. First, as a student, I studied computer science in a university called Keio in Japan. And particularly, I studied parallel processing using supercomputers and dedicated hardware such as FPGAs. So I started my career as an engineer studying hardware. But after entering Panasonic in 2011, I jumped all the layers way up, layers of computer science, all the way from hardware to software applications and products and social implementation. And I experienced R&D for digital appliances, smart houses, voice agents, chatbots, and also I did some research on HAI, which stands for Human Agent Interactions. And after that, I joined a joint research lab between AIST and Panasonic. And I did research on distributed deep learning using supercomputers for computer vision applications, for example, surveillance cameras. So this work kind of lies in between my student and my professional career. And 2021, which is about 4 years and a half ago, I joined AIST as a senior researcher. And now I am conducting digital service development and social implementation field tests for smart cities, mobility, and circular economy. And since 2023, I am based in Silicon Valley. So this is my professional career, but I would like to share my personal life for a little bit as well. Actually, in fact, it is my second time living in the Silicon Valley, and the last time was between 1991 through 1995. So this is me right here by the green arrow, standing in front of the Hoover Tower. I think I was around 8 years old at this moment. And also there is a photo of myself in front of the church in Stanford as well. And I am so happy to be back after almost 30 years. And I felt really special when I took this photo in front of the public elementary school called Meadow Heights, which I used to go in San Mateo with my son, who is about 6 years old right now. And my son also goes to a Japanese weekend school in San Francisco every Saturday, which I also went, so I can sing the song, Koka, of the San Francisco Japanese school. So I was very happy to be in the entrance ceremony with my son. So I'm very happy living here in the Silicon Valley. But I would still like to say that there are so many opportunities and challenges of being both as an assignee and as an accompanying partner. I would like to honestly say that I came to the Silicon Valley because my spouse or my husband has been assigned to the Silicon Valley from a Japanese company. But my organization has let me do a long-term business trip and study in Silicon Valley without quitting my job. And my situation is extremely unusual, and I know how lucky I am. So dual career couples are increasing in Japan right now. I would like to share a little bit later, but there are 3 times more dual career couples compared to husbands working and wives are dedicated to houseworks. But when one partner is assigned overseas, the other is very likely to be forced to take leave or quit the company. So my case is very exceptional, of course, for me, but also for my organization. And I really want to turn this experience into a constructive case for the next generation. And secondly, this is my really critical issue, but my assignment did not start with a specific research topic. So typically, many Japanese researchers come to the US to do a specific research topic and return to Japan in about 1 or 2 years. That's a very typical case. But in my case, going abroad came first. So this is one issue that I'm going through. And as a second issue, in STEM, where women are still generally underrepresented, career paths for female STEM researchers, especially in their 40s like me, creating a career path after overseas assignment is largely undefined. So I had a lot of things to worry about, and I needed to put some uncertainty into words. And that's when I met Makiko-san and when I encountered JIBA. And based on my background, I joined 2 research projects. One is a survey on Japanese women in Silicon Valley assignment, which I believe Makiko-san will share shortly. I think, so please look forward to the talk. And now we are also conducting a study on Japanese girls' STEM career decision-making because there are still a small number of Japanese women choosing the STEM. So this is fortunately something that I am being able to experience in JIBA. And now talking with my colleagues, I'm now beginning to notice something and asking myself, how we might be missing by not having a long-term presence in the US as a national research institute in Japan. Because, as I said before, it is usually the case that the researchers come to the US on a specific topic and they study individually between the US organization or universities. But there is not a long-term presence from national research labs. And still don't have the answer yet, but this is a question that I'm wanting to think about through the next year. Thank you very much.
It's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I love how everything came full circle for you. That's amazing. So our final panelist, before we get into some questions and diving a little bit deeper into their experiences, is Ms. Saki Oshima. She's a partner of NEXTBLUE, and she is going to be talking through her experiences and her background.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I don't fly split. I'm Saki at NEXTBLUE. NEXTBLUE is an early stage venture capital investing in women's well-being, female founders. So my story is a little bit different. So I was born and grew up in Japan. Moved to the US 10 years ago to go to business school, not Stanford, but business school. And then I happened to get a job in venture capital in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. And then I was with them for 6 years. It's a sector agnostic venture capital. I was the only female investor there. And I realized the power of, this term femtech, women's health, is emerging back in 2017. And I got obsessed with it. Because I was born and grew up in Japan, as I mentioned, and I grew up with health issues. And then, to be honest, I'm 35, so it's 10 years ago. When I was in college, I was not sure if I was so scared of become a full-time employee in Japan because it's such a long working hours and, I don't know, salaryman thing kind of scares me. It's so women's health and women empowerment are so deeply tied together in my head. And then I realized the sector is definitely I'd love to invest more capital in. And then I tried to push the deals internally, didn't go so well. And so I started writing, article in Japanese media. I thought it's a good idea to create some kind of FOMO, a Google Ventures invested in this company, you're missing out, And then my current fund actually found me through the social media activities. And then I'm in charge of investing in US startups in women's health or female-led companies across sectors. So that's my background.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your investments in Japan?
So our fund, so both my previous fund and also my current fund have a Japanese LP. So that's how I work with some Japanese stakeholders, and then we invest in the US, Europe, and Japan. Again, we have a mandate to invest either in female-led companies or women's health sectors. So the number of we were able to find a couple of startups in Japan, but there are not many female founders in Japan compared to the US. So that's if this is something you're interested in, I'm happy to dig deeper. But yeah.
Perfect. So I think you all are setting me up just perfectly for this question, which is women in Japan in the labor force are traditionally overrepresented in healthcare or education, and not necessarily in full-time work. So a lot of women, while there are a really high percentage of women that are participating in the workforce, they're not necessarily employed full-time. So there's a lot of interest and curiosity as to how to entice, encourage, incentivize girls and other women to go into kind of non-traditional career fields. So I think you are all excellent examples of that. So can you talk a little bit about your background and why you chose kind of the career path you did? And since you're all also very forward-thinking and working with JWEBA, can you talk a little bit about how you are considering mentoring and or advising kind of the next generation of women kind of coming up behind you? You can take in any order you'd like.
Yeah. So maybe, so can I introduce?
Please.
Yeah.
That's great.
So before our panel, I'd like to show some of the insights from our research project. From the very beginning, we have an intention about not just gathering as a community, but also sharing our insights with the broader world, because I think the challenges the women in Silicon Valley faces may also emerging in other regions. So today, I'd like to share a few key insights from our research. As I mentioned little, the majority of our members are women in their 30s and 40s. So what challenges do Japanese women face in building their careers in their 30s and 40s? This graph shows the proportion of full-time employee by age for men and women. Men is right side, and the line is relatively stable over time from 20 and 60s. However, for women, the line drops sharply at a certain point. It's the later 20 and the beginning of 30, and remain flat, right? And this pattern is often referred to L-shaped curve in Japan. And this shows the reality that many women move from full-time employee to part-time employee due to the life events such as childbirth and child care. In other words, the 30s and 40s in Japan are the period when the career development and the life events strongly overlap and making career development very difficult. And regarding the Juiva initiative, there is additional and important perspective. Overseas assignments tend to occur precisely during the same mid-career stage. I mean, typically in their 30s and 40s. And this means that women who take overseas assignment choosing a major professional challenges at a time when balancing work and family and personal life is already extremely demanding. At the same time, Japanese corporate HR systems have traditionally been designed based on one clear assumption. That is, a male employee is sent overseas accompanied by non-working spouse. However, through our interview research with female experts, we found that at least there are 6 patterns. These include married relocating with partners, no children, married relocating with partner and children, married partner in Japan and relocating with children, married solo assignment, single mother, and single. In short, women's overseas assignments are more diverse than the traditional model. Of course, the expert makes up only a small portion of full employee, total employees in large corporations in Japan, and it is not easy to provide fully customized support for such diverse group. But this leads to an important question. Is it really appropriate to continue using expert systems designed around only one very narrow life model? And from my perspective as a public health researcher, I have an additional concern. You know, men and women differ both biologically and socially, especially in relation to reproduction, caregiving, and life course risks. So designing our uniform system and applying it equally to everyone does not always result in fairness, right? And finally, please take a look at another result of our research. This slide shows the result of Juiva survey of people who have experienced with assignment in Silicon Valley. It compares men and women, look at whether they actively asked for overseas assignment. The result is very clear. More than 70% of women said that they raised their hand for themselves and applied on their own for the assignment. On the other hand, the number is less than 40%. This may seem unusual in the United States, where individuality is strongly valued. But in Japan, Japanese companies operate in a high hierarchical society. So as a Japanese, I can understand this situation very easily. And this tells us something important. Women show much stronger motivation to pursue overseas assignments. However, the current system is still based on a traditional male expert model. As a result, highly motivated women are often treated as exceptions. And this is not the individual issue. This is a system design issue. The real question is whether companies have a system that enable people with diverse life situations to perform in global roles. And so far, I talked about lots of the issues we see today, but we are not disappointed. In Geneva, we also believe strongly in the looking forward. We are working not only with the professionals, today's professionals, but also for the next generation. With that, I'd like to invite Yuri to introduce our initiatives for future.
Thank you, Makiko-san, for the introduction. And also thank you for asking about the next generation support. So today, I would like to briefly introduce initiatives that JIBA is conducting for support next generation women. And as a background, STEM academic performance, in concrete, mathematical performance and also science performance of Japanese 15 years old girls are world class. It is about between number 1 through number 3. It is extremely high. Nevertheless, when they turn 18 years old, only after 3 years of this performance, women's university and STEM enrollment rate, which means they select the STEM departments, is the lowest among the OECD. There are 38 countries in OECD, and Japan is the worst. And JIBA thinks there are a variety of reasons for that, but we believe there are 2 major reasons. One is early timing for choosing academic streams, which is humanities versus science. In Japanese, we call it bunke or rike in Japan. So you need to choose these streams around the age of 15 to 17 years old. But there is a research which has been conducted by Britain, I think. And they studied that they found out that if they choose the academic streams too early, then they will be influenced by the social cognition of STEM being is more related to men than women. But Japan's many Japanese girls need to choose their academic streams at the early stage for majority of schools. And for another reason, we noticed that there are fewer communities for women in STEM and engineering fields in Japan. So in the United States, there are a lot of communities, STEM communities for women, such as, for example, girls who code. But there are not so many such kind of communities in Japan. So they have fewer opportunities to meet the peers, role models, and also mentors, which may discourage Japanese girls to choose STEM. So based on these findings, JIBA is now conducting initiatives for the next generation girls in Japan. This year, I will say last year, in July 5th, 2023, we did a design thinking workshop. And this was based on the idea that design thinking incorporates a lot of, creativity and also a dialogue using empathy. But at the same time, design thinking is something that you actually do in the corporate to design new products after graduating STEM universities. And we wanted them to know that this is a kind of a skill you can actually use after choosing the scientific stream. And also in February 6th, which is coming in about 2 weeks, we are also planning a panel discussion by Japanese female engineers and scientists who work in the Silicon Valley. And we would like to let the next generation female students know that what kind of struggles they went through while they're considering between humanities and science, making a selection for universities and also jobs, and also going to the foreign country. And we were expecting them to share their experiences. So yes, these are the initiatives for the next generation that Joey was conducting. Thank you.
Awesome. Any comments on the question? That's okay.
I'm not STEM, but I think that the number of the female percentage of STEM student and the STEM job is highly correlated with the innovation in women's health. So that's one comment I would say. And then also I totally agree with what Yuri-san said and Makiko said. And then at the same time, I think we recently invested in Japanese startups that help female engineer to look for new jobs and stuff, because in Japan, there is still a shortage of engineer. And then what is really interesting for that startup is that they provide coaching to female engineers, because women tend to feel, oh, I'm not good enough, right? So if they're like a 10 qualification on the LinkedIn, unless they like check all the 10, they don't apply, so that's how I think that this, of course, for students as well, that's where you got to start. But at the same time, female engineers are actually already in the workforce, require a lot of like coaching as well.
One quick follow-up. So for NEXTBLUE, you said there's a mandate to invest in female-led businesses or
Women's health.
Women's health. What's the genesis of that mandate for having an organization that's that focused on?
Yeah, actually, I'm not the founder. Actually, I joined as a fourth GP at the fund, but it started as 3 people, and then one of them is a female in Japan, and she is one of the 5 or 6 female GPs in Japan. And then she experienced childbirth and childcare type of things, and then she saw there are a lot of innovation happening. I would say when it comes to in Japan, public sector is shrinking. For example, IVF is covered by national insurances, corporate benefit, healthcare type of things, right? But in the US, private sector is driving the innovation of women's health, like corporate benefit, like Cara Progeny, those kind of companies, and stuff. So she realized she wanted to do something in women's health, which is supporting female founder. I can talk about stats for a long time, but I save it. But women investors tend to write more checks to female founders, and she saw the huge gap in it. So that's where it started. And then actually Tokyo government invested in us.
Okay.
So it's almost like a public and private effort.
It's amazing. So I'm a little curious, as you have worked in the US, worked in Japan, you have connections in Japan, you're helping bring up the next generation and trying to find ways to mentor and encourage kind of, a way to close these gaps. Where do you see the most traction that you might be getting? Is it women to women communities? Is it organizations that are or businesses that are starting to say, like, no, we're going to be very, very finely focused? Is it government policies, research? Is it more data and research that needs to be presented? Where do you think there might be some traction around closing the gender gap? And you don't have to solve the world's problems, I promise.
Yeah, so is it okay if I just start off?
Please.
Yeah, so Makiko-san has just presented in her slides, and as I share as my personal experience, once again, maybe it's going to be a repetition, but the number of dual career couples in Japan is 3 times higher than those where the husband works and the wife dedicates to the housework. But Japan faces significant challenges globally right now, including a declining population and shrinking market. And despite these challenges, many Japanese companies still do not allow accompanying spouse to work abroad for a variety of reasons. But there was a survey conducted by Nikkei and actually was published this January. And so it's a pretty new survey, but they have found out only 5 companies out of 200 companies in Japan fully support accompanying spouses working overseas. And the majority of the companies are either passive or negative about this idea. So a global-minded workforce is really crucial for Japan at this moment for Japanese growth. And I strongly hope that both assignees and spouses will take this kind of opportunity to go abroad. And I hope companies will not demotivate or discourage these individuals due to their policies because they never experienced it and they don't know what to do. So Makiko-san and I have been discussing about this topic a little bit, and maybe there should be a community of course, assignees and spouses, but also a community of global human resources in Japan that they can exchange their experiences of how they should support the people who are trying to go abroad and also a company. So there should be several layers of communities, not just the people who goes abroad, but also a community of who supports it. Yeah.
Yeah, from my experience, I have been working as 2 Japanese companies. To be honest, I did not see many internal reforms that truly support women's career and development. But recently, I think there is a good policy by the Cabinet Office and the Japanese basic plan for gender and equity. Quantitative target has been set across various factors to increase the share of women in leadership positions. And since so far it is just, include that quantitative target in their plan, but legally it's not mandatory. But since last year, there has been a strong move. Government requires companies to disclose their proportion of women in management in public. And I believe this is a very good policy that works particularly in Japan. Once these numbers are made in public, companies are inevitably, compare with their competitors. And so the comparison clearly influenced the corporate awareness. And from macro perspective, I confirm that there is women's representation in managing has been gradually increasing. So I think the countries like Japan, they respect the hierarchy. So in that case, this kind of policy is very effective.
May I add another one regarding
please.
the Japanese government?
Absolutely.
So yes, I will like to add another thing to what Makiko-san said. And there's one concrete example that I would like to share regarding the Japanese government policy is the certification system for companies that actively support gender equity. And as far as I know, Japan has 2 major certifications. One is called Kurumin for companies that support employees with childcare, and another is called Eruboshi for companies with strong women's advancement measures. And companies that meet such kind of criteria can obtain the badge, which says Kurumin or Eruboshi, and they can publicly display that badge on their company brochures or corporate websites. And the interesting part is that these certificates can be used in public procurement. So for example, National Research Institute like mine, AIST, are allowed to prefer these certified companies when we make major purchases with a lot of dollars or outsource services. And this has a potential to create a real economic incentives for companies to improve gender equity. So I think this is a very good example, and I hope they pursue this and apply this more. But I would like to just add, however, and this is an important part, whether this procurement mechanism is actually used depends on who is the requester.
Okay.
So it's not always applied. So the system exists, but the implementation is still ongoing. And I will say it's promising. It's still developing, but I still would like to have some hope.
Great. That's a great example. Thank you.
I don't know many about policy, so we'll probably talk about business. I think that like when I was a student, high school student, or like college student, I didn't have many role models. My mom was, helping my dad's business, and then the only like working it, and then I wish, thinking back, right? I wish there are like when I was like 18 or 19, I wish I had more opportunity to talk to more women in their 20s or 30s, because those kind of few decades change a lot for career path, right? So like lack of role model has been a consistent issue for Japan, in my opinion. That's the difference between Japan and the US, I think. For example, like I am part of community women in VC. It's like 8,000 women globally working in VC. And then they have like a job post, female partner, want to hire female associate type of things, right? So that type of things. I mean, there is a Japanese version of that. It's called Tokyo Women in VC. So it's changing, but I think that that type of like it's not systemized so much, I would say. It's not so much celebrated either in Japan. So I think that type of like a minority community, it doesn't have to be only women, but I think that if you are part of the community, you can actually get advice, mentorship, and then could be your next job opportunity, right? So I think that part is still missing. And then I hope more such activity is gonna continue to grow.
So I will ask one more question before we open it up to the audience. So you have all had the opportunity to come and work in the US. Sometimes your spouse was assigned here, and sometimes it was by choice, or you moved here for school. So kind of comparing and contrasting, but like how has working in the US and then also still, maintaining your connections to your Japanese companies or your research institute, how has that kind of like changed the way you approach the way you operate within your organizations? Or has it? Maybe it hasn't.
Yes, so I would like to start off. So I'm still thinking about the answer, but I think there are several things that I can say. Since Japan is rather a country that is so let's say in organizations, most people are Japanese, obviously. So I basically focused on differences when we communicate with someone. But after coming to the United States, I met a lot of diverse people, and I've noticed that being different is the baseline. And my mindset has shifted a little bit. And I felt joy when we find something in common while we're being different. And I think the mindset shift actually helped me conduct a research in my national research lab. I started to communicate more with the people who have come abroad to Japan, and I started to understand their situation better. And yes, I think as a researcher, I have been being able to accept more diversity, and that has been making me more open-minded, which is really great to do my daily research. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, after moving to Silicon Valley, actually it was the first time to live abroad for me. And yeah, I really, realized that the US, of course, maybe especially in Silicon Valley is a place that where the individuality is highly valued. It's quite different from Japanese organization. And personally, I do not believe that women can win in the competition based on the climbing the hierarchical ladder designed around lifetime employment, and the system was not built with women's life and realities in right. So I come to start from a different perspective recently. We are entering in the era of 100-year lives, right? So what matters is not just not just win the short-time success, but we live long, healthy, in order to spend a fulfilling life. So in Japan, it is, in Japan, it is often pointed that many men lose their energy and social connections, unfortunately, after retirement around the age of 65, because their identity and value are strongly tied to the company. Transitioning to the next stage of life can be very difficult. Women, on the other hand, often had to connect discontinuous careers through their through that experience, they can create their own life. Maybe that is a strength. Maybe this ability may not have been valued in the past in Japan, but in long longevity society, I believe it become a real strength. So I believe that, and that is the mindset I recently get. Yeah.
I love that. I think you're highlighting something really important, that as people live longer, the model of lifetime employment and having one job at one place is just, it was built for a time when that just wasn't the reality. And so being able to adjust is going to be imperative. Otherwise, well, there's going to be a lot of unhappiness, but seeing how women are maybe more uniquely situated because of the connections that they're able to make. It's a superpower.
Yeah, so I started my career like 8 years ago in Silicon Valley. So I think that like what influenced me the most is I was fortunate enough to have a lot of like role models, right, in the field, mostly non-Japanese people. And then another thing is that there are a lot of research done in the US, right? For example, like as I mentioned, women tend to not to apply for a job if they don't qualify for the qualification type of things, or like female women are like those kind of things, right? And then I was able to learn lots of best practices, and then I was able to learn that practically through advice and stuff. And so how I maintain my connection to Japan is that my passion is we invest in the US innovation. Right? There are a lot of issues in Japan, but there are not many like STEM women. So like there are not many deep tech like solutions there. So what I do at my job is that like we invest in the startup, and then we introduce the startup opportunity to Japan-based investors because they have bigger funds than us, right? So I do a lot of like raise awareness and education talk and to Japanese strategic and investors. And so that's how I maintain the both world, and then that's our value prop to our startups.
Fantastic. So let's open it up to audience questions or anything online. Yeah, don't be shy. Oh, there we go. I was like, students, there we go. Please. Hold on, we're just gonna get you a microphone.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Hi.
Hello.
I was wondering, how much capital would you say Japanese women need to have already in order to make this sort of career transition in their 30s or 40s? Capital, resources, money, etc. In Japan.
So if they wanted to do a career change,
Yes.
Basically, what level of stability and resources do they need to have in order to really make that a reality?
Exactly.
Okay. Go ahead.
I mean, I've never worked in Japan, but like, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's about the capital. It's about some confidence. And then also like, you know, let's say some women belong to large Japanese corporation. A lot of people are scared to leave the golden handcuff, I would say, because Japan, it's illegal to fire people. So as long as, you know, you stay, you're not gonna, you get the monthly check and then also like good benefits and stuff. So I think that it's really risk averse. It's more like a mental and then societal type of things.
Agree.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
What's your expectation? What's your expectation?
I would assume a certain level of stability.
Like how much were you like assuming assumption?
I didn't have a much number in mind, but I assume that like it'd be enough such that if it didn't work out, you could have a career chance. Like,
Because it's a risk, right? I understand that. So you're trying to hedge that risk by making sure that you still land on your feet if it doesn't work out.
yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you. Yeah, right here. Tyler, can you?
I think I can. Right.
Yeah, we can, there you go.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. I never worked in US yet, but I work in a US company in Japan and Singapore. And then I think one of the challenge that we have in Japan is men don't leave the office until late night. Where I worked at Procter & Gamble, like everyone who needs to, you know, go pick up kids at nursing school, like leave at 6. That was the norm that I grew up. But that I learned that doesn't happen at most of the Japanese companies. Like most of my friends who works at bank, like literally leave only at 10, even though they have small kids. So I see that is one of the issues that, like, the reason why women need to take care and go home early or like need to leave job, right? Like what can we do to change this is something I want to ask. Maybe from policy point of view, or like something you observe at previous, assignment. And second question I would ask is about like care for elder people. So after raising kids, also another reason that women need to leave job is basically to take care of elder, like mom, mom, parents. And that like supporting system is not enough, I believe. How do you see that, and how can policy help in that sense is something?
So the second question for those on Zoom was about caring for elderly parents, aunts, uncles, extended family members, and how that can also put a strain on women's time and how they're able to then balance work and their other care responsibilities.
So firstly, I want to ask the second question. Basically, the women has lots of responsibility in family work, including care for the children and care for the elderly. That is the global trend, but especially in Japan, the care burden is the kind of responsibility by women. Especially regarding the care for the elderly, Japan is now super aging society, and the number of dementia people is increasing. So recently it is said that the number of family caregiver is increasing. And this is a lack of the long-term care insurance system. In Japan, we have the long-term care insurance system. This is basically the support for the elderly, not for the family caregivers. So there is no insurance, public insurance for caregivers. And the age of caregivers is also the middle-aged, 40 and 50s. So they have the responsibility, both the careers and also they have the responsibility in the leadership in their organizations. And also they have to care for the parents, and some of them live remotely. So it is for me, it is very dangerous situation in Japan. Yeah. So that is the topic I want. Yeah, I'm very interested in.
And I would like to try answering your first question. And I agree too. Yes. And I believe one important thing is that there should be more women rising to the leadership positions. Actually, I think Takaichi-san's election has actually been phenomenal in certain circumstance. And when the Japanese woman becomes a leader, there will be a more chance that she will have a deeper understanding of what is the concrete obstacles the woman face and the necessarily changes in policies and cultures to create more equitable opportunities. So I often notice that there are a lot of drinking parties at night in Japanese companies. So they work hard and they go drinking after work and they maybe drink until 10 o'clock or whatever, and they take the last train to go home. And that's something that you definitely cannot do when you're especially raising kids or taking care of your parents. And so at least in Jaiba, we often have lunch instead of drinking parties to communicate with people based on Makiko-san's idea that we should have less amount of drinking parties. But yeah, this kind of idea comes up because Jaiba is driven by a Japanese female leader like Makiko-san. So this is something that we do. And speaking of Takaichi-san and the elderly care, actually, she was taking care of her older parents who has been living in Nara Prefecture. Nara Prefecture is, for your reference, pretty far from Tokyo because I have a family in Nara, so I know how far it is. It is pretty hard to commute. But while she has been working, she commuted to Nara to take care of her parents. And she noticed that she needs to go on a day when she needs to take care of the garbage collection because the garbage collection is like once or twice a week. And that's the day of the week that she needs to be there. And although she has been a very hardworking person, and she noted this kind of inflexibility, it's really challenging to do both elderly care and the work. So she actually created a policy to change that and to add more flexibility for the garbage collection. This kind of idea came up because she had the experience as a woman taking care of her parents. So I think this is kind of a thing to have a good part of having a woman leader. So I really would like to have more leaders in Japanese C-suite, and the leader management roles.
Absolutely. I love that as a use case, right? It's something that you're experienced, you identify a problem, you design a solution, right? Yes. And it's usually, sometimes it can be very easy to implement.
One comment, I think your question is really spot on because one of the shocking stats I've seen is that Japanese government put out a few years ago, the amount of unpaid work, housework done by women in the US is like 1.6 times more compared to men. In northern world, like northern European countries, it's like a 1.3 times. In Korea, 4.4 times. In Japan, 5.5 times. So you're really spot on. That's definitely an issue. And I think that like in private sector, Japanese companies hire people, like they want to hire like healthy men, like Tokyo University grad type of people, and then no responsibility, like, right? But like, how sustainable is that, right? As like two panelists has been saying, like the population is Asian, and then even if you're not women, what if you have to take care of your elderly parents, right? So I think that the next generation, I think it has to be it's not that sustainable. They have to change, right? And then I truly believe those kind of companies who can accommodate diversity are the only ones that can shine for sure. So and then I would say like if you are looking to work in Japanese company, I would ask how leader handle the time, right? Like, is he or like the founders or CEO,
Right.
are they like picking up kids or his wife is doing everything? Because that actually showcase how the founder wants you to work, you know? So I think that it's really important to not just listen to the pretty talk, but like actually see how the person or leader operates. So it has to be top down, I think.
I think that's great advice for anyone interviewing and looking to move to a company. Look at how the founder kind of sets the culture. That's a great point. We do have a question on Zoom. So how can current students and alumni support JWEBA? Which is such a great question. Thank you, Sarah.
Please follow the LinkedIn.
Follow the LinkedIn.
Yeah. We established a nonprofit in the US, but we still the young organization. But my dream is to connect this community globally and more widely because, I am Japanese and I like Japan, but I think Japan is the country which changed little by little, very small step. So so it's not wise to wait that the organization do something new. So we have to do for ourselves. So JWEBA is the one step. So we like to collaborate with many generations, various generations, and globally. So first step is to follow the LinkedIn and so please celebrate our initiatives.
And I totally agree with Makiko-san. And I would like to add that once again, JWEBA is conducting a research among how they select their career paths. So still we're in the middle of the discussion, but the majority of the people who join JWEBA in their 30s, but we would like to, we're starting to look to expand this community into a younger generation as well. So that maybe people in the 20s, maybe they would like to ask questions to their 30s and the 40s, how they have survived through their career. But maybe the people in younger generation may want to ask, what can we do in the universities? So I think the people in their 20s are in between who can answer the people questions from a younger generation. So I think that will be a great help, and it also would make JWEBA more bigger and sustainable community.
Great point. They covered it all. Any other questions from the audience? Please. Yes, of course.
Thank you. I want to ask a question to you. So you said that you've been working for Procter & Gamble in Singapore? Okay. What's your nationality? I'm sorry if I don't mind. If nationality, if you don't mind me asking. Japanese? Okay. And then so for me, my recommendation, or actually what I would love you to do is that so to me the Japan enterprises, they've been changing a lot. And like I go to my Japan office a lot and I see many changes, meaning that like my I wouldn't say subordinate, but then colleague, male colleagues taking the maternity leave. I was like, what? But actually, they're like, they just call me and say, hey, it's like 2025. Guys,
often start taking the maternity leave, and they have to, the corporation itself, we have to accept it, and it's getting norm. So it was a shock to me, but things are changing, like the lady said, slowly changing. The other thing is that, many companies you all may know in Japan, we've been hiring lots of, new college graduates, like United States too. But the thing is that we don't find too many, not the eligible new candidates, but what happened is we ended up hiring the foreign students who come to Japan and study. They're very sharp. I love that. And then they are so dedicated. But at the same time, I would love to see a person like you maybe try to get the spot like that. We love to see lots of like the globally educated, and at the same time cherish what Japan has and want to reciprocate it and contribute to your future. And we, like me, woman, as like much older than you, being in this industry over 20 years, but love to see the person like you, as well as all other foreign students too. But, even better to me, love to see your, person come back to Japan, bring back and invest yourself with the company who wants to grow. Japan, all the Japanese companies know they have to do something, make some changes right now. So I would love to see you if you want to go back to Japan and then do the work, right? And then if you are looking for, if you have an application for the Tokyo office, I love to take it.
Oh, we're making connections right here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. I think that's a great point to talk about normalizing those policies for men and for women, so that, paternity leave, maternity leave, like it's not just a policy that exists, but that people are actually utilizing it, finding benefit from it, that the companies are surviving and perhaps then able to retain that talent, which I think is such a great point to make. I did want to talk a little bit about how to break into, I think everyone's kind of made comments about how to break into that leadership role, right? So for career advancement, as you guys are navigating your own careers and thinking about if change can kind of come from the top down, and you really want to make sure that you're figuring out ways to maybe, well, as Makiko said, like make change little by little. What are some of the advice that you would either give yourself or someone else? What are some of the strategies that you might think about when you're figuring out what's the next thing for you? How do you advance? How do you kind of step into those leadership roles?
Okay. I tell myself all the time, because I'm a woman, and then I have some kind of inner voice, right? Like, oh, you're probably not good enough to be here. And then I think that it's ability and skill to turn it off as very fast. And then you can train that for sure. And then also another thing I always tell myself is that you should ask for help. They can say no, right? And then you don't lose anything, right? That kind of mentality is, I think, missing for women, including me. So that a little bit like a mindset shift, the build like little by little, I think that it improves me. And then a lot more like support system I've been creating.
Okay. So definitely, this is a very hard question. But as I would like to answer this as a researcher. And so I work in a research institute. So my perspective might be a little bit different from the Japanese business. But in research, we often talk about becoming a pie-shaped professional. Pi is the Greek alphabet pi, Greek alphabet P. Which means that someone who eventually developed two strong vertical areas of expertise. So, and when I was a university student in Keio choosing my major, there was a professor who told me something that is still staying in me. And what he said was that don't aim to study everything broadly, and choose one field and dig deeply into that. And if you keep on digging that, you will naturally start to understand the surrounding areas. And I decided to follow that advice, and I began my career in computer hardware research. And over time, the amount of hardware work I do have decreased, and I moved more into software interaction and design fields. But I have having a foundation in hardware is still one of my strengths, and it gives me the confidence. And when the system run into some kind of trouble, and if that is due to hardware bottlenecks, I am able to see what needs to be improved in the hardware. So while cross-industry or cross-functional experience is becoming more common, I think the sustainable way to navigate a very non-linear career like now is to build one solid pillar. So for Saki-san, for experience as a VC in the field, and Makiko-san studying the healthcare. So these two women here have these strong pillars as their first career. And from the foundation, I think you would be able to add new axes to work naturally because it will be demanding it from inside of yourself.
Yeah, regarding the leadership in the future, I think the style of leadership will be changed with the various backgrounds, like the longevity or other thing. Because in the 20 or 30 years ago, when there is a high economic growth in Japan, there is a need strong leadership with strong hierarchy. And at the time, that style was very, reasonable. But now the era of 100 years model comes, and there are a lot of women, continue to work after the life event. So I think the leadership style will be changed, not only the strong and kind of strong leadership, but also the peer-to-peer leadership. In order to create in order to do the peer-to-peer leadership, I think that is important. How the leader can emphasize the other's situation. That is a key factor. So I think in that sense, I think women has a strength. Women are very good at emphasize to the others. They can easily feel how the others feel. So I think this kind of strengths will be utilized in the future leadership for both women and men. Yeah.
I love that. I want to open it up to the audience again. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm interested in working in Japan in the future, and I'm also interested in China studies. So in my undergraduate Japanese language class, I gave a presentation about why there are still few women in management positions in Japanese companies. So even when men and women have similar skills, issues like marriage and having children can make it harder for women to get promoted in companies. So I also learned that Japanese will have some policies that encourage companies to increase the number of women in leadership. So at that time, one of my classmates asked, companies care most about business results. So isn't it more fair to judge employee only by ability, not by gender numbers? So my question is, how do you think about this? So how do Japanese companies or Japanese society will balance fairness based on ability and improving gender representation in management?
It's a great question.
Great. Thank you for a great question. I would like to start off by sharing some of the examples that I had from my previous company, which is called Panasonic. So Panasonic has been trying to reform a promotion exam. And traditionally, employees took 2 key promotion exams while they're going through their career path. One around age of 30 and another one between age of 35 to 40 years. And these exams required a month of preparation, and it had very demanding oral interviews. So I still remember how nervous I was while I was taking that interview. However, the number of women taking these exams were relatively small. And also this directly contributed to the low number of women in management position and the C-suite positions. Since Panasonic examined the reason more closely, and they found the structural barrier. The exam was held only once a year and at a fixed time. It was around every December or January. And if the timing overlapped with childbirth or childcare leaves or taking care of their parents, women simply could not take the exam, no matter how qualified they are. And so to address the Panasonic shifted to an open application system where you can take the exam anytime throughout the year. And after this change, the number of women challenging the exam began to increase. So they had this opportunity. If they have the ability, they could actually raise their hand and take the exam. So I think this is kind of a good example how institutional practices, even the ones appear, it's a gender neutral practice. Even men can use this same system, but an intentional disadvantage of women and how resigning them with flexibility can make a difference.
Anybody else want to? I love that. I think that is a great note to end on. I am very inspired by all of your stories. I think we can all take away that it's important to value women's input in business and that we can all benefit from a lot of flexibility. So please join me in thanking our panelists. I really appreciate you being here with us this evening.